So we're hearing a lot about boosting experimentation in the workplace. Why is experimentation so important?
What we would used to say, let's give something a test drive. We'll just dip our toe in the water and see if that feels right. But because our world of work is really dominated by speed and complexity, doing the occasional test isn't enough. So it requires iterative experimentation. But you're testing and thinking out of the box and experimenting all the time. It's that fail fast concept. But to be able to do that, you need to be open-minded and agile and flexible in thought. Some individuals might find experimentation really challenging because they just want to be able to replicate what they've always done, or they've got a certain belief around how things should be done. And likewise, if the organisational culture doesn't have a tolerance for mistakes or doesn't have space in the work demands where you can apply some experimentation and it's not valued, then it's not going to happen. But what we do know is organisations that are up for experimentation then are able to solve problems faster.
So what might be some indicators that your team or your organisation are ready for some experimentation?
Yeah, it's a great conversation to get started in the organisation around what's our readiness for it and what's our appetite for when it goes wrong, because they're not all going to be winning experiments. So what's the risk appetite with that? But starting as a conversation around where do we want to introduce it? And then the flip side to that is what's getting in the way? What are the barriers? So why don't we experiment? Is it the speed of the organisation? Is it the systems? Is it a perceived culture? Maybe it's the way we're organised. And some of those might not even be true. So to have some myth busting go on, it would be helpful in organisations to introduce the experimentation and the exploration when things were going well. I've seen this with clients where they've done really well for years or decades. There's industries or certain businesses that were just highly profitable. So they could afford to sort of run the business however they saw fit, and everyone sort of benefited from that, which is no problem until the industry changes and you need to pivot. And so everyone's then in for a bit of a rude shock around we need to do things differently. If you've been in that period for a long time, then you're out of practice with your experimentation. People report that they feel a bit robbed, like, well, my world was so stable and I didn't want it to change because I was comfortable. And so they hadn't experienced that sort of growth edge for a while. And then it just comes as a bit of a rude shock and people want to run away from it and go back to normal. I mean, COVID's a wonderful example of that. Can't we just go back to normal the way it was? But sometimes change happens and you just can't ever go back to normal. You need to create the new normal.
You talked about this idea of the growth edge.
When we look at a growth edge or an edge emotion, it's generally when we're under a bit of pressure, there's change that's imminent. There might be emotions like fear and maybe anger or grief or even excitement, anything that gets the butterflies going and you're in unfamiliar territory. That's an opportunity for transformative change. Instead of, oh dear, everything's going wrong, it's oh good. So get comfortable with uncomfortable. Use it to your advantage. Recognise that, okay, I'm in transition. I'm not recognising the path forward. That's an opportunity for me to try something new. Excitement is potentially a bit more tolerable than fear, but they're all really normal human responses. I guess it's about not wasting a crisis. Why am I feeling this way? What's going to help or hinder the path forward? What can I learn that's new?